Chokma, are you interested in learning how to form a Chickasaw sentence? Today we're covering 3 basic types of Chickasaw sentences and how to create them. But before we get into that, I want to share the excitement with you that this is our 10-year anniversary of teaching Chickasaw classes online. I really can't believe I've been teaching for 10 years. Wow. We're going to have a lot of exciting things coming out this year. So I hope you'll check back to find out what's coming next. Also, the 2024 term enrollment is open for Chickasaw Comprehension classes Level 1 and Level 2 through 4, which is now a combined class, and also Grammar Live Level 3 and 4. Chokma, sa holchufo, Fani Iskanno'si. Hi, my name is Little Squirrel, or in English you can call me Sherrie Begay. If we haven't met before, I'm a certified Chickasaw language instructor and a Chickasaw grammar expert. I am the original creator of Chickasaw Classes Online and Chickasaw Online Language Arts, which is our virtual school. Okay, now let's talk about forming Chickasaw sentences. But before we get into actually forming Chickasaw sentences, let's talk about the difference between Chickasaw and English. So English is an analytic language and Chickasaw is a synthetic language. So what do these terms mean? Well, an analytic language has everything in separate parts. For example, in English, I am going to go. That's 5 words. I am going to go. In a synthetic language, the parts that you want to add to a base word stick to the word, and the word itself might change and the parts might change to form a sentence. So with Chickasaw, if I want to say I am going to go, I can just say one word, ayalachi, and it's all one word. So it sticks together. Everything sticks together. It starts with the base word aya, which is to go. And then we add myself on there, ayali, I'm going. And then the achi, which is now my future tense, so ayalachi, I am going to go. So you can see the difference between an analytic language and a polysynthetic language. And languages will vary in degree into how analytic they are or how synthetic they are. In fact, they might change over the decades, back and forth, but probably not going all the way to the other side of the spectrum. So that's something to keep in mind whenever you are going from English to Chickasaw. It's really on the opposite end of the languages. And there's really only the 2 types of languages in the world. You've got analytic and synthetic, and the ones that are very synthetic are polysynthetic. And a lot of native languages are polysynthetic. The next main difference you'll notice about Chickasaw and English is the word order when you're forming a sentence in English as opposed to Chickasaw. So if you look here on my screen, English word order is SVTO. So we've got subject, verb, tense, and object. And that would be the word order for English. For example, the dog chased the cat. So we've got a dog, and he's the subject, he's first. Chase would be the verb, that comes next. And in the past tense, so the tense is on chase, so chased. And then the object is the cat, and he goes at the end. So the dog chased the cat. Whereas in Chickasaw word order, it's SOVT. So we've got the subject first, then the object, then the verb, then the tense. So the dog is the subject, then we've got the cat, which is the object, then the verb, and then the tense. So Ofiat kowi hliotok, the dog, cat, chased. So the dog, cat, chased. So that's the difference in the word order. Another big difference between English and Chickasaw is that in English, be forms are stated, whereas in Chickasaw, they're rarely ever stated. Be forms is like to be, like I am, he was, it is, It's things that exist. We say those things in English, but often they're implied or part of the content of the words themselves without actually explicitly being stated. So that's something that you'll have to wrap your mind around too whenever you're going from English to Chickasaw. All right, now let's get into the three basic types. The first type of sentence we're going to cover is identificational sentences. They're usually just a single word. And what's implied in a word, just a single word in Chickasaw, is the be form. It is, it's the, he is, she is, or even they are. So I've written some vocabulary words here to explain identificational sentences. So let's learn these words together. Dog is OFI. It has a glottal stop, so it's going to get cut off and not drag out. OFI. The next word is water, oka. So it also has a glottal stop, doesn't get drug out at the end. And finally, the word child, chipota, chipota. So OFI, oka, chipota. Now let's look at some more examples of identificational sentences. You'll notice now on the screen that I have the word koi, which means cat. And so you can just put a period at the end, koi, and it means it's a cat, she's a cat, it's the cat, he's a cat. Or here's the word for woman, iho, and then that would mean it's a woman, she's the woman. All right, the next word we have here is minko, and that means chief. So minko, complete sentence. It's a chief. It's the chief. He's the chief. So let's say you're walking around the Chickasaw Festival and you see Governor Anatubby walking around and you point to him as you're telling your family, Minko. You've said a complete sentence. It's the chief. All right, another one, holiso. Holiso means book, and it can mean book, paper, or document. So as a complete sentence, it's a book, it's a paper, it's a document, it's the book, it's the paper, it's the document. We would often use that now for a computer document. Let's look at the ways that we can form to be sentences. I'll highlight the first one on the screen and just bear with me as I just go over these types, and then we'll look at some examples. So the first one here is the present tense to be sentence. We've got our subject first, then we add an "at" to the word, and then we have a separate word which would be a noun, and then that would be a complete sentence. And why do we add this "at"? The "at" is a subject ending that tells us that is the subject in the sentence. In English, we have to, kind of figure out who's doing the action in the sentence, but when you have a noun subject and you have an "at" on there, it's really easy to tell who the subject is in a Chickasaw sentence. If you wanted to say a past tense sentence, you would add your subject and the "at", then you would add your noun, and then otok. And so this would tell you that it was something that existed in the past. And then if we wanted to make it a question, let's look at the next example. So we'd add our subject, the "at" ending, then a noun, and then otam. And then that would let us know that this is a past tense question. Did it exist in the past? Okay, now let's say we want to talk about the future. If something exists in the future. So we have our subject and our "at", then we have a noun, and then "achi". And so this tells us that the thing is going to be that. The next one is a future tense question. And this one is just like the future tense, except for now we're going to add the "ta" to the "achi". In fact, I'm just going to stick it on there. Now let's look at some examples of to be in the present tense. Let's look at a few vocabulary words first and then a sentence. So we have chapota, which is the child. And then we have Chikasha, which would be how we would say it in our language, Chikasha. And that means Chickasaw. Incidentally, as a side note, some people say Chikasha and some Chikasha. It really just depends on how you spell it. And that has to do with rhythmic lengthening. So you're going to hear it both ways. And that's fine. Either way is correct. So let's form a sentence. We've got chapota here. And then we've added our at. So chapotat. And then Chikasha. So Chapotat Chikasha, the child is Chickasaw. Chapotat Chikasha, the child is Chickasaw. So it's a to be sentence. And then a couple more vocabulary words. We've got iho, which means woman. Incidentally, it's not who, it's iho. So, woman, iho. And then the next word is na holo. Na holo is a non-Chickasaw or a white person, but it doesn't have to necessarily be a white person. It could be just a non-Chickasaw. So na holo. Let's put it together in a sentence. We've got iho, and we add our subject ending at, and then na holo. So ihoat na holo. The woman is white, or the woman is non-Chickasaw. Now let's look at to be past tense. So here we have some examples of past tense and in the question form. So for our basic past tense to be sentence, we're going to add the otok, as I explained before. So let's look at our child that we said is Chickasaw and put it in the past tense. So we've got Chapotat Chikasha otok. Chapotat Chikasha otok. The child was Chickasaw. And now let's look at the woman and say that she was, maybe it's somebody we knew before, she was non-Chickasaw or she was white. So, ihoat na holo otok. Ihoat na holo otok. The woman was white or the woman was non-Chickasaw. Now what if we want to ask a question? That person that we knew, was that child Chickasaw? Was that woman non-Chickasaw? We're going to add the otam instead of otok. So otam. So we've got Chapotat Chikasha otam. Was the child Chickasaw? And then ihoat na holo otam. Was the woman white or non-Chickasaw? Now to make it a future tense to be sentence, we're just going to add achi at the end instead of otok or otam. Let's look at the examples. So we have our child. Well, now the child's going to be a doctor. So our word for doctor is alikchi. Chapotat, we've got our child and we've got our at ending here to say that this is the subject. Chapotat alikchi achi. The child will be a doctor. So now we've got a future tense to be sentence. What if we want to ask a question instead about something that will happen in the future, that it's a to be sentence? Let's look at that example. We're simply going to add ta onto the achi, which makes it a question. Before we get into the question, here's a new vocabulary word, nanim abachi. Nanim abachi means teacher. So we've got woman, we've got our at ending, then we have nanim abachi, and then our achi future tense and making it a question ta. So it would be ihoat nanim abachi achita. You'll notice something interesting also. When you ask a question in Chickasaw, it is also another difference between English and Chickasaw. English, when you ask a question, the pitch goes up at the end. Like, do you want to go out for coffee? But in Chickasaw, the pitch goes down on a question. So for the example I just gave, ihoat nanim abachi achita. So the pitch goes down at the end, and that is how you know it's a Chickasaw question, plus the ending ta or tom is what's making it a question. Now, before we get into the final type of basic Chickasaw sentence we're covering today, you probably know how much I love coffee. But did you know I'm actually a coffee snob? And that's why I get my coffee beans from specialty roasters like Coronado Coffee. Coronado Coffee Roasters is an Arizona-based family-run business roasting small batch specialty coffees to ensure their customers receive the highest quality and freshest possible whole bean coffee. And for coffee snobs like me, you'll appreciate that the tasting notes are listed with every selection, and that they roast the beans close to your order date, ensuring the freshest possible batch for your V60 or Chemex pour over. But don't worry, you can brew it in a regular coffee maker machine as well. Coronado Coffee has agreed to give you 15% off your order when you use the code word Chickasaw. That's CHICKASAW. They ship all over the United States, so go ahead and head over to coronadocoffee.net. That's CORONADO coffee.net and see what they have to offer. And remember, when you try Coronado Coffee, you're helping support this channel. Now let's cover the final type of Chickasaw basic sentence, the SOVT sentence. Now is where you can have a lot of fun going through the dictionary and making up new sentences with this basic formula. So again, your subject, let's check out the screen here and I'll highlight it for you. We have our subject, and then we add our ought to show that it's the subject. Then we're going to add our object, then the verb, and then the tense. All right, so here's an example. We've got O fiat oka ishkotok, and that means the dog drank the water. The dog drank the water. So first we have our subject, the dog, so O feet, and then we added our ought, which shows that that's the subject. And then you'll see next comes the object, so water, oka, and then the verb to drink is ishko. And then we have our past tense ending tok, so tok, and we stick tok right on the verb, as you can see here. So you can really just change this out. Put a different noun here, put a different noun here, put a different verb here, and you can make all kinds of sentences. So ofiat, oka ishkotok, the dog drank the water. I hope you have fun with that and you'll look at a Chickasaw dictionary and try plugging in some nouns and verbs and making up your own sentences. Let's do a quick recap. We've covered 3 types of basic sentences today. Identificational sentences, like the word dog, ofit, would mean it's a dog, he's a dog, she's a dog, it's a dog. To be sentences, which would be like chopotat chikasha, the child is Chickasaw. And SOVT sentences where we have a subject, an object, a verb, and a tense, like O fiat oka ishkotok, the dog drank the water. Well, I hope you enjoyed this lesson today. And before you go, remember that the 2024 term enrollment is open. And also, if you haven't done so already, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And also, subscribe to my email list so you stay on top of everything that's happening throughout the year. As I said, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary. And finally, I'd love it if you'd go check out my newly redesigned website, and I'll have the links to everything below this video. Chokma'shki, thank you. Chapisala cho. See you later.